Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
Every year, OOIDA recognizes dozens of drivers through its Safe Driving Award program. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford speaks with one of them and finds out more about the program and the importance of recognizing those drivers who go the extra mile in the name of safety. A watchdog in the U.S. Department of Transportation has a few things to say about FMCSA's oversight of cross-border trucking with Mexico. I'll discuss that and get an update on the automatic emergency braking rulemaking with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. And finally, the effort to end split speed limits continues for OOIDA. Today, Ashley takes a look back at how the association has fought to end speed differentials in many states across the country. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today, a U.S. government watchdog is reviewing how long President Biden's choice for labor secretary can serve in an acting capacity without Senate confirmation. Julie Su's nomination has stalled, but the White House last month said it would keep her on as acting secretary indefinitely. Last month, Representative Virginia Foxx, chair of the House Committee on Education and the Workforce, asked the Government Accountability Office how long Su could lead the agency in a temporary capacity. A spokesperson for the U.S. Government Accountability Office told Reuters this week that it had accepted the request for a legal opinion and is working on it. Current Labor Department policy allows Su to serve indefinitely due to her previous confirmation as deputy secretary, but Republicans opposed to Su believe she should be subject to the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which dictates policy for most federal vacancies. Opposition to Su has been strong, due in part to her time as Labor Commissioner of California when she implemented the state's controversial AB 5 law. Her bid for confirmation took a major hit last month when Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia said he would not vote to confirm her. Yellow is exploring its options as it attempts to pay off its debts amid bankruptcy. We told you earlier this week about Apollo Global Management's $142.5 million loan offer. But Reuters reports that Yellow has received similar offers from MFN Partners and Estes Express Lines. MFN Partners is an investment firm that owns 41% of Yellow stock. Yellow filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protections earlier this week. The company's debts are just one hurdle it is facing right now. They're also facing a class action lawsuit which claims the company violated the WARN Act by not providing 60 days advance written notice of terminations. New York City is touting a new automated system that identifies and tickets overweight trucks on the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. The system uses so-called weigh-in-motion sensors that determine a truck's weight, then uses license plate cameras to send out citations. Each violation can carry a fine of up to $650. The mayor's office says they'll be working with the NYPD to identify and target enforcement along alternative corridors that overweight trucks may try to use to slip by. The objective, city officials say, is to preserve and protect the aging Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. Enforcement began today, starting with a 90-day grace period. Full enforcement with fines kicks off November 8th. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has broken ground on improvements to the World Trade Bridge in Laredo, Texas. The project will modernize the port of entry. Once complete in the spring, vehicles coming in from Mexico will be scanned electronically to find threats and contraband. Officials say the changes won't just enhance security, but also speed up the inspection process. Work is set to run through April of next year. In the meantime, border officials say to expect delays. All trucks will be routed around the construction zones. Meanwhile, DOT officials in Texas are sounding the alarm about the effect extreme heat is having on roads there. Fox 44 in Waco reports that roads are buckling throughout the state, which is leading to closures. A spokesperson for the Texas DOT told the station that bridge joints and places where old pavement meets new pavement are the most susceptible. Crews have been busy responding and patching up problems all summer. The next ramp you drive on in Utah might just be made of foam. The state DOT is trying out something new in Davis County. ABC4 reports they're using geofoam as the foundation of a new ramp that will ultimately connect the future West Davis Highway with Interstate 15 South. Geofoam is similar to the styrofoam you might see in an ice chest or packing materials. Using it for roadways, the Utah DOT says, makes the roadway lighter, leading to less sinking, shifting, and settlement. That's a bonus in this particular area because the future ramp is close to train lines that would cause a normal dirt base to settle anywhere from several inches to a few feet. The Davis County ramp will be built with approximately 3,000 geofoam blocks, each measuring 4 feet by 5 feet by 9 feet and weighing around 200 pounds. Once all the blocks are in place, a concrete slab is poured on top to evenly distribute the load, and concrete walls are installed along the sides. Semis were used to block traffic on a highway in Southern California Wednesday night. It happened at the State Route 134 I-5 interchange in Glendale. KCAL reports that the protesters were part of an Armenian-American group who want more action to stop Azerbaijan blockades within Armenia. The protests began at Burbank City Hall and later moved to the freeway interchange. Major traffic delays were the result until the California Highway Patrol got them to move out. Werner Enterprises is facing a bit of pushback over its plans to expand one of its terminals in eastern Pennsylvania. One of the questions residents of Palmer Township have about Werner's plans: why does a terminal need more truck parking? Lehigh Valley Live reports that Werner outlined its proposal to the Palmer Township Planning Commission recently, asking to add 138 trailer parking stalls and 47 tractor spaces. Those numbers are up roughly 50% from current totals. Residents are skeptical, just as they were when the terminal was approved 5 years ago. The biggest concerns appear to be over noise. Werner uses a terminal for driver safety courses and training for new drivers. And finally, a new CDL training facility is coming to Brevard County, Florida next summer. A ceremonial $3.8 million check was presented to Brevard Public Schools this week. The money will go toward the commercial driver's license facility at the Clear Lake Education Center in Cocoa. The facility is expected to open in June of 2024. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. You can write a letter to your elected officials in Congress or look up contact information for lawmakers who represent you on the state and federal level by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that website, fightingfortruckers.com. If you'd like to join OOIDA, you can do it at a discount. Just call the membership department during business hours at 816-229-5791. You can join the association or renew your membership for 2 years for $50, a $40 discount. A reminder that the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance has announced this year's Brake Safety Week. During the week of August 20th through the 26th, CVSA will focus on brake lining and pad violations. When inspectors conduct the brake portion of an inspection, they'll check for missing, non-functioning, loose or cracked parts, contaminated, worn, cracked, or missing linings or pads, and they'll listen for audible air leaks around brake components and lines. Again, that's during the week of August 20th through the 26th. You can write and post a review of the doctor who performed your DOT physical to be shared with other truckers, or look up at the reviews of a doctor through the OOIDA website, OOIDA.com. Just go to the main menu at the upper left corner of the page and under Resources, click on Certified Medical Examiner Review. And OOIDA will offer its Truck to Success live seminar October 17th through the 19th at the Courtyard by Marriott in Blue Springs, Missouri. We'll have a link to where you can sign up and take the course at landlinenow.com. Next, Ashley Blackford speaks with one of the winners of the OOIDA Safe Driving Award, and I'll get an update on cross-border trucking with Mexico from OOIDA's Jay Grimes. Landline Now will be back in a moment.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
For can't miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
When you weigh on a CAT scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Every year, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association recognizes dozens of drivers that have safe, accident-free records. Recently, Bob Garrett of Indiana was recognized for 28 years of safe, accident-free driving of a commercial tractor-trailer. Bob joins me now. Bob, how long have you been trucking?
Oh, about 36, 38, somewhere along in there.
Okay. What first got you interested in getting in trucking? What year did you get into trucking?
It was 87. 87 was kind of a slow year. I was laid off from a job, and I couldn't find anything else, so we started driving a truck. I always wanted to, so that was an opportunity. I got into it.
And what did you start out hauling, and what have you hauled over the years?
We started out hauling JIT freight for automotive companies, and we hauled groceries for a few years, and the last 28 years, 29 years, we've been hauling LTL freight. That's just a combination of everything.
Mm-hmm. And when did you first hear about OOIDA and become an OOIDA member?
Oh, it was in last part of 88, 89. It was the first time I had heard about it. And I kind of got to listen to some of the programs and stuff and picked up some of the literature. And, oh, okay. So we signed up for a few years. We signed up down at the truck show and then finally started became a lifetime member and took a youngest son, made him a lifetime member, and I think a brother-in-law.
What is it about OOIDA that you enjoy and want to be a part of?
Well, it's the only organization I know of that really stands up for truck drivers. They'll tell you the truth. You tell you the truth about something, and if you want information about any problem, you can call headquarters and get the answer to your question.
Mm-hmm. What was your reaction when you heard you had been recognized for 28 years of safe, accident-free driving?
I was happy. I was very happy about it. Wife sat here said I was shocked about it.
Were you expecting that, or it was a shock?
Oh, I was halfway expecting it. I took and filled out the paperwork and sent it in.
What is the secret behind, going that many years without an accident? What's the secret behind being a safe driver?
Really taking your time. Just try to take your time about it and kind of keep your head on a swivel, I guess, and a little bit of luck.
What advice would you have for younger drivers coming into the industry? Do you think there's kind of a lot against them right now with the amount of distractions, not just in trucks nowadays, but also with other drivers on the road?
I think we have a lot of drivers in the U.S. from other countries. They are following the law, but they're following it the wrong way. The last 10 years I ran from Muncie to Detroit, and we going across some of the highways, wherever they run out of their time, had to take their 30-minute break or break, they just pull off on the shoulder of the road and stop. And I've seen a lot of accidents like that over in Ohio on 24 across through there, man. There was a lot of them.
What advice would you have for, the younger generation getting into trucking?
Find you a good company that'll treat the drivers right and treat you right and pay you what you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
For years, the drivers didn't get paid for what they were worth. And it's finally it's finally up there now. You're receiving a good pay without having to run 24 hours a day. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
What has it been about the job and trucking that you've enjoyed so much?
Something new and different every day. Even if you have a dedicated run, it changes within 24 hours from the time you go through the first time to the second time to the fifth time. It changes every day. It'll be just a small change, but there's still change in it. So I actually enjoyed it. There's a lot of times that the dispatchers would actually make it harder on the driver than it should have been by forcing them to do stuff that they knew was wrong, and the driver is you either do this or we will terminate you.
And any plans to retire, or you're still going strong?
Oh, we have retired.
Oh, you have retired. Okay.
Yes.
Do you miss it at all?
No.
No.
No. The buzzers and stuff in the truck, there's just too many distractions, and it's making the drivers. I still know several drivers, and a lot of them are on nerve pills or something to kind of keep them all the noise going on in the truck, and the company is saying, hey, you're supposed to be here at this time, and there's no way you can be there, and you just get there when you can.
Any words to share or advice to share? I know you shared some earlier.
Just good luck to all the drivers that are still out there, and just be safe and take your time.
Sylvia Dodson is Manager of Membership at OOIDA. Sylvia, what is OOIDA's Safe Driving Award program?
Our Safe Driving Award it's OOIDA's way to show recognition for a job well done, basically. And these elite individuals and members that are part of our organization, they set examples for others. And it's like a personal achievement for them as well, because a lot of our guys are owner-operators, single owner-operators with their own operation. So they're not recognized by a company. So for them to have an award out there that they can look at when they get home, or they can display on the truck, or because we send decals, we send pins, we send certificates. So I've got one guy that puts them all across his wall, and he makes sure he has a double, one for his bunk and one for his home. So it's funny, but anyway, it's just a personal achievement for our guys, and it's having a sense of pride in their profession and able to show it and show it to their friends or their family or whatever, that they're proud of what they do. And it's a good accomplishment. No accidents. We've got awards for 41 years, 49 years, 51 years, accident-free. And they have to verify all this. They have to give us, an application, and then they give us, now granted, some of these guys, they're like the 51-year award. Granted, we know that back in the day, a lot of those companies are now out of business. But if they write letters and they let us know the history, a lot of times we know the companies because we've been around for 50 years. They went out of business, and they've got MVRs that'll prove that, and they've got back records that they can at least piece together, to where they prove I'm accident free. I've got this many million miles. I've got this, clear record. I want to show the world I'm good. And we know you're good. You're part of OOIDA.
Well, exactly. Why is it important to recognize drivers who have had decades and decades of safe, accident-free driving?
Well, like I said before, it's a mark of professionalism. It shows them and others around them. It's a good conversation piece, number one, because I'm accident-free. I've never had an accident. They are a good, what's the word I'm trying to use? Mentor to others. You get these young drivers coming into the industry that know it all or think they do, and they can look at one of our more, not older drivers, but we've got guys that are 30, 35, 40 years old too that have clear records as well. So they're able to learn from them. It's a learning thing. It's a training tool. It's something that they can look up to and say, I can do that. They're showing it can be done. Take the time and learn right.
You've been here for many, many years. What do you think, from your perspective, you've probably talked to thousands of drivers, what makes a safe driver?
I think it's a way of life for them. It's not what makes them. I think they choose the profession and they choose to do it right. And it's a way to prove I can do this right. This is a good profession to be in. If you do it right and you run your business right, and you are aware of public and you're aware of docs, people, situations, at the gas pump even, you can prove to people this could be done right. You don't have to fly by the seat of your pants. You can do this as a profession and make a living at it and be good at it.
How does it work, I guess, as far as do they apply? Can you kind of walk me through that process?
Well, and it used to be where it had to be all manually done. Now we've got the application that's online. They can just pull up the OOIDA.com, go under Safe Driving, and we have an online application they can complete. And then I get it on my end, and they can attach their proof, MVR, a letter from motor carrier, loss-free from the insurance company, showing that they've had no accidents. They've got to provide proof of no accidents for as many years they're asking for. So if they're just wanting this year, then they just provide information, MVR, letter, or proof from an insurance company that they're accident-free. If they're asking for 5 or 10 years or more, they just provide those as accordingly. Like for instance, like Landstar, they give out awards to their people. Large company driver, owner operator lease to them, and they can actually trade those awards in, showing I've gotten, a 1,000,000-mile award, which usually is equivalent to about 10 years for experience-wise, is what I've been told. And so we can take that even. And they just turn the application in. We go through the paperwork, approve everything, and send them out their award, mail out their award to them with their pen and their patch and their decal. And if they want extras, then we can do that as well. Most guys want to usually double for backup. So they're proud of them. They love them.
If any of our members or anyone's listening that would like to be recognized, I know we recognize our members, how can they go about that?
They can either give me a call. This is Sylvia Dotson. I'm here to help you through the process. You can go online. It's that simple. It's just a phone call or an online. Depends on if you want to talk, you don't. It's just cut dry. We make it as simple as possible.
And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you talk to me about, OOIDA? I mean, the association is its members and kind of the importance of recognizing the ones who do it right.
Well, it's important, number one, because it shows our readers, it shows our other members, it shows politicians, it shows everybody from state to D.C. that our members are the cream of the crop. I mean, they're the best. And it proves to them that our guys love the profession, it means something to them, and they're going to do it right.
That was Sylvia Dotson, Manager of Membership at OOIDA, talking about the Safe Driving Award program, which is designed to recognize and reward OOIDA members for their safe, accident-free years while operating a commercial motor vehicle. The awards are available to all eligible OOIDA members who qualify based upon the number of years of which the member has operated a CMV without being in a preventable accident. For the purpose of the program, a preventable accident is identified as any accident that occurs while operating a commercial motor vehicle in which the driver failed to make all reasonable efforts to avoid. You can visit OOIDA.com to find out more information on OOIDA's Safe Driving Award program for members, or you can call 816-229-5791. This program started back in 2007 and has recognized hundreds of drivers across the U.S. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
You trust PrePass for more bypasses? Now let PrePass help with tolls. PrePass toll service means lower cost, one invoice for all tolls, and fewer violations. Created by truckers for truckers. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. carriers, I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
A watchdog in the Department of Transportation has a few things to say about the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's oversight of cross-border trucking with Mexico. You're listening to Landline Now, and this is Regulatory Roundup. I'm Mark Rettig, and I'm joined by OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Jay, how are you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Good to be back.
Good to have you here. Now, this involves the Office of Inspector General. Just briefly, can you explain what that is and what they do?
Yeah, they're basically a review agency for the Department of Transportation. And, every federal department has an inspector general to kind of ensure that the departments and the agencies are doing things in the correct and responsible manner. So basically kind of an oversight group for the Department of Transportation here at the DOT Inspector General's office.
Now, they conducted a review under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement Implementation Act. And for those who aren't familiar, can you kind of lay out what the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement is?
Yes, this was a major trade agreement that was agreed to by the three countries a few years ago, basically as an update or a renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, dating back to the early 90s, and kind of set some major provisions regarding trade. But one specific issue that we were very involved in was protecting the interests of U.S. long-haul truckers as it relates to cross-border trucking. And the original NAFTA agreement set in place, which was a long process that eventually opened up Mexican carriers and operators to operate in the U.S. In transporting goods beyond the commercial border zones. We have seen that some of those carriers and drivers are not held to the same safety, licensing, and training regulations that U.S. drivers are held to. Kind of creates an unfair disadvantage for American drivers and carriers who aren't going into Mexico. We see the other carriers coming into the U.S. taking away deliveries and routes from American drivers. And the USMCA established a review process to identify and remove Mexico-based carriers and operators that pose material economic harm to American truckers. And as part of that review process, it mandated that DOT conduct some surveys of current Mexican carriers and the operating authorities that DOT has granted, and how compliance reviews are conducted as well. So we've now had a couple of those required reviews from DOT as far as cross-border trucking goes. Those have taken place, and we can kind of begin some of the steps that were outlined in that USMCA independent review process.
So broadly speaking, in looking at these carriers and the whole process, what did the Office of Inspector General conclude?
Yes. So they did this review, and they determined that FMCSA, for the most part, has met the requirements for cross-border carriers, but that the compliance reviews that they are supposed to do within 18 months of granting operating authority have not always been conducted on time. The Inspector General report said the agency, they have an adequate tracking system to determine when carriers are due for a review to ensure they are complying with regulations, but that the timeliness of those compliance reviews do not always take place, and that of the 53 of the 83 Mexican carriers that received authority within the last couple of years had not had their review done within 18 months. And then 38 of those 53 carriers hadn't received a compliance review for an average of more than than 40 months, more than 3 years. And in one carrier's case, it had been more than 85 months without a compliance review. So there's kind of a pattern that once these carriers get authority from DOT and FMCSA, they get that authority, and that's kind of the end of it. That FMCSA isn't doing the necessary follow-up compliance reviews to make sure that these carriers are operating safely.
Getting into the weeds a little bit, the audit took a look at what they did right, what they did wrong, and I'm wondering if you can kind of give us an idea of what the agency got right according to this audit.
Yeah, so the main things that they do have right is that they are going about reviewing and granting the operating authority in a correct fashion, and they do have the system set up to kind of track the performance of these carriers in some ways, but they aren't going down and doing the real detailed compliance reviews. And in response to that, the Office of Inspector General has made 3 recommendations to improve FMCSA's adherence to the requirements regarding Mexico domiciled carriers. And the first one is to revise the FMCSA's policy to define and allow for justifications in delaying those 18-month compliance reviews, and that if they are delayed, FMCSA should determine and kind of set up a process to determine how long an approved carrier can operate without these mandated compliance reviews. And kind of brings in some safety questions there. Are we looking to get rid of these 18-month reviews altogether? I'm not sure if that's a great way to go. The second recommendation is determine whether a revision to the regulations is necessary to implement the compliance review revisions. And then lastly, develop and implement a recovery plan to complete compliance reviews for carriers operating more than 18 months under provisional authority, and to establish a review schedule. FMCSA has received these recommendations as of June. They remain open, resolved, but open pending completion of the plan's action. So FMCSA is aware of these actions, have not going to take some time to kind of implement these recommendations, but certainly kind of brings up, the questions that we've always had with the current cross-border provisions. And are these Mexico domiciled carriers and drivers held to the same meticulous regulatory requirements that U.S.-based carriers are?
Let's move on to another topic here. We've got quite a bit to cover. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have issued a joint proposal to require automatic emergency braking systems, or AEB, in large trucks. And the proposal has spurred some reactions, not surprisingly. Before we get into all of that, I'm wondering if you can just review the basic proposal for us.
Right, and this all goes back to the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the major infrastructure bill, and the last 5-year highway bill that was enacted in Congress, which laid out a lot of different trucking policies and provisions. One of those mandated that DOT undertake a rulemaking for automatic emergency braking equipment. And this was kind of going to be laid out in 2 different parts. There was going to be one rulemaking for light-duty vehicles, and then one separate rulemaking for commercial trucks and heavy-duty vehicles. And those proposals have been published as of this year. The light-duty vehicle came out first, and then about a few weeks ago, we saw the proposal, joint proposal from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and FMCSA that would require AEB systems and electronic stability control systems on new commercial vehicles weighing more than 10,000 pounds, and basically sets out a 3 to 4 year implementation period for the rulemaking, and then the manufacturers to start putting this AEB equipment on all newly manufactured Class 7 and 8 trucks. There's different rules for Class 3 to 6 vehicles for electronic stability control requirements, and then there's some different provisions for small volume manufacturers as well. And, our kind of initial response to this proposal is that it does not sufficiently address some of the concerns that we've had with the AEB systems that are on some trucks right now, mainly dealing with false activation alerts, where the technology sets off warnings, sets off notifications when it doesn't need to and when it shouldn't have to, that are causing a lot of distractions for drivers. There's also concerns about whether the AEB systems will work in different inclement driving conditions at night, in the rain. So we still think that the technology has a bit of a ways to go before it can be proven reliable and safe if we're going to implement a mandate. And some of the testing and the protocols that were proposed really kind of fall short in kind of providing the necessary level of safety that we think needs to be conducted before any mandate is finalized. And again, we're starting to hear some of that feedback from drivers already. I think there's been over 300 comments submitted to the agency so far. A lot of those from truck drivers who are kind of sharing some concerns and real-world examples of the deficiencies in the technology, again, especially in severe weather and unique terrain.
I'm curious, you mentioned the comments there and, of course, the false activation concerns. And there was a lot of talk about those false activation concerns in those comments. Can you give us just a couple of examples from the comments of what truckers were saying?
Yeah. One driver wrote, they almost had a crash due to the automatic braking system on my Freightliner. It was snowing and icy, and the radar didn't work too well in those conditions, that the AEB systems get blocked by ice. They were traveling into a curve with a guardrail on the passenger side when the radar detected a metal object and applied the brakes forcefully. And again, it kind of relates to this technology taking control out of an experienced driver's hands. And the commenter mentioned that a computer decided that my eyeballs and situational awareness of the curve didn't matter, only that metal was ahead, and if I didn't slam on the brakes, I would hit it. Sent me into a jackknife, and I was barely able to recover the skid before going off the road because the computer assumed I would go straight ahead instead of with the curve. And if others were next to me, I would have hit them. It would have been a multi-vehicle accident caused entirely by a computer. And this is a situation that we hear all too often because these AEB systems and the false activations haven't been thoroughly vetted yet. And these are... We want to see the testing improved, and kind of the conditions and the testing scenarios outlined by the joint proposal really aren't going to provide that adequate level of safety, and knowing that this stuff is going to work when it's supposed to. So got a long way to go on this proposal. The comment period is currently open through September 5th. But we know NHTSA and FMCSA, are required, congressionally required to finish the rulemaking, but we feel like it really needs to be strengthened before any timeline of a mandate is finalized.
Okay. We've just got a few seconds left here. OOIDA sent a letter to the agencies before formal comments on the plan. Were there some things covered in there that people need to be aware of?
Yeah, really just reiterating some of those false activation concerns. NHTSA has opened up an investigation to quite a few number of trucks that are on the roads right now that have experienced the false activations for AEB. Want to see those reviews completed and really more research that's kind of ongoing right now before the AEB mandate is finalized.
Okay. Well, Jay, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you, Mark.
I've been talking with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Loadboard Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Loadboard Pro.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount. Landline Now, welcome back. It's time for another of our 50 on 50. 50 significant events from OOIDA's history in celebration of the association's 50th anniversary.
Keith Goebel, State Legislative Editor for Landline Magazine, joins me. Keith, thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
Today we are talking about speed limits, split speed limits specifically, and OOIDA's effort to end these split speed limits. Starting off, as it stands right now, how many states have speed differentials for cars and trucks?
Yeah, well, specifically, if you're talking about like statewide, I mean, there's going to be there could be some states that have maybe small portions of certain roadways where they have a differential. But if you're just exclusively talking about statewide rules, there's 7 states, which is fewer than there was, say, a couple decades ago. But yeah, there are still those holdouts. And if you imagine, or if you kind of look in your mind what the U.S. map looks like, and the states that have differentials, you've got Indiana and Michigan, really in one little portion of the U.S., and then in the other portion you've got California, Oregon, Washington, Montana, and Idaho. So you kind of have those clusters. That Midwest cluster was bigger in years past, but Indiana and Michigan still, I guess you could say holding strong to their belief of differentials.
And what is the belief that they have? Is it believed that it's safer?
Yeah, it's slower trucks equal safer trucks is the view, is the viewpoint. I think too, most recently in Indiana, where there have been efforts in recent years to eliminate their differential. The Indiana Senate has approved almost annually legislation to eliminate the differential, but it has been thwarted as it's gone to the House Transportation Committee there in Indiana, and Indiana is unique because the head of their House Transportation Committee here for years has really held on to the same belief of the Indiana Motor Truck Association, which is slower is better. If you're going to keep cars, well, you should really be slowing down cars as well. But trucks, slower is better, slower is safer, and that is what has won the day to this point with that particular committee. But historically, it is the belief that slower trucks is going to result in safer roads because of stopping distance time and that sort of thing. I could probably go in and talk about this topic quite significantly. I mean, Oregon comes to mind going back to the early 2000s. Then Governor John Kitzhaber, which was a former paramedic. The legislature had approved uniform speeds, and he vetoed it. And his reasoning was there weren't enough urgent medical facilities in rural Oregon, which that's never going to change. You don't have a lot of urgent care facilities, hospitals in rural parts of states because there just aren't enough people there to warrant it. But that's how they got around the issue in the state of Oregon. But yeah, those essentially are the main points.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been on this beat for a few years now. Can you talk to me about the impact OOIDA has had on getting some states to end split speed limits?
Yeah, OOIDA's involvement, Ohio comes to mind right off the top of my head. Now, it is worth pointing out that any time OOIDA has the support of a state trucking association on this issue. It's been much easier in states where that hasn't been the case. It has obviously been much more difficult. But with Ohio, I think back to the early part of this century and the pursuit of eliminating the 10-mile-per-hour differential at the time. For years, OOIDA officials as well as OOIDA members were regular visitors to the Ohio State House and looking to convey the importance of uniformity and fewer interactions with vehicles and not having motorists being impatient and having to try to get around, maybe if not on the left side, but also on the right side of trucks. And there's just a lot more issues that can come whenever you've got that kind of activity going on. But OOIDA brought in Julie Cirillo, who was a former assistant administrator and the chief safety officer for the FMCSA. She went into Ohio and she supported OOIDA's view on uniform speeds and about the safety benefits, and that eventually won the day in Ohio back in 2009 whenever they got rid of their differentials, and then you saw Illinois really kind of act, I'd say not in concert, but they also approved uniformity in 2009. So that was a big year for, again, the safety concerns that OOIDA has had through the years.
What other actions are being taken in the states that still have the speed differentials?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, that the states, the 7 that still do have them. I wouldn't say every year that you see legislation to get rid of the differentials, but it's quite consistent. I know California's had a pursuit, and that comes to mind. Continues to see pursuits in Oregon, Washington. I mentioned Indiana, and Michigan, Idaho. I mean, they all from time to time will have legislation to get rid of uniformity. But one of the challenges, as I mentioned initially, if you're visualizing the map, the group of states, the western states, northwestern states, they essentially want to follow or adhere to what their neighboring states are doing. If they see the split speeds are the way to go, why necessarily should they make the change? We did see some inroads here in the Midwest here in recent years. Going with Arkansas. Arkansas had a 5-mile-per-hour differential back in 2015. Their Highway Commission didn't wait for the legislature to convene to address the issue. They just essentially stepped in. There was data, research that had been done that showed the differential speed limits just it wasn't efficient for traffic, and they decided to just go ahead and issue an executive order and eliminate differential speeds there in Arkansas. But that's unique case there in that particular state, and time will tell, how soon these other states are going to move that direction. Obviously, fewer and fewer states that have the differentials, but those that do, they are definitely holding on to their belief.
Now, there's, of course, lots of talk about speed limiters. Do you think that would be a lot of kind of taking a step back for those states that have gotten rid of the split speeds?
Well, it certainly definitely would create some challenges there, but you want to be able to have, of course, you want to have uniformity. You don't like to have a big gap. One of the points being made that probably be better to have motorists, slower speeds for motorists, but that is not going to happen. But you don't want to have the gap that would be created, and definitely with speed limiters, you're only going to have a bigger and bigger gap as a result.
All right. Wonderful. Keith, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That was Keith Goebel, the state legislative editor for Landline Magazine, talking about split speed limits.
That was another of our 50 on 50. 50 significant events from OOIDA's history in celebration of the association's 50th anniversary. We'll bring you a new entry every week from now until the actual anniversary celebration.
For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. That's our show for today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome,
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.